Welcome to Thoughts and Theories. Most people grow up thinking that morality is something sacred, something given to us by religion, by God, or by divine law. We were told that good and evil are absolute, that what is right must always be right, and what is wrong must always be wrong. But Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher, didn't see it that way. In fact, he believed that morality, especially Christian morality, wasn't some eternal truth. It was a tool used to control, to shape people's behavior and to maintain power. Nietzsche saw Christianity not as the religion of love and forgiveness that it claimed to be, but as a moral system built on weakness, resentment, and submission. To understand what he meant, we need to step back for a moment and look at how morality developed. In ancient times, long before Christianity, moral values were created by the strong, the noble, the powerful, the warriors, the rulers. They decided what was good and bad, and for them, good meant power, courage, pride, and success. Bad meant weakness, failure, and submission. Nietzsche called this master morality. It was the morality of those who ruled. They didn't feel guilty for being strong. They didn't apologize for their instincts. But then came what Nietzsche called the slave revolt in morality. This happened when the weak, the oppressed, the poor, the slaves began to resent the strong. They couldn't fight them physically, so they fought them morally. They redefined the words. Suddenly, humility became good, obedience became virtue, power and pride became sin. The tables turned. Nietzsche said this moral reversal was the birth of Christianity. In his view, Christianity took the values of the weak and made them sacred. It taught people that suffering was noble, that turning the other cheek was virtuous, and that the powerful would be punished in the afterlife. This gave comfort to those who had no power in this life. But it also served another purpose. It kept them obedient. It told them not to rebel, not to question authority, because their reward would come later. Nietzsche saw this as a clever psychological trick. Instead of overthrowing their masters in the real world, the weak created a moral system that made the masters look evil just for being strong. In other words, morality became a weapon of the powerless. And once this new morality took over, it spread through Europe and shaped Western civilization for centuries. Think about it. Christianity taught people to feel guilty for their desires, to suppress ambition, pride, and even pleasure. It made suffering a kind of spiritual achievement. Nietzsche believed this robbed humanity of its vitality. He called it the morality of decay. In his eyes, it made people smaller, tamer, less alive. He often used a sharp phrase to describe this mindset: the will to nothingness. The idea that instead of striving to grow and create, people prefer to destroy their instincts and call it virtue. He saw monks who renounced the world, priests who condemned the flesh, and believers who longed for heaven instead of improving the earth. And he saw that as life turned against itself. Now, Nietzsche wasn't just criticizing Christianity as a religion. He was criticizing the mindset it created. Even in the modern world, where people might not go to church or believe in God, that moral framework still lingers. We still praise humility over confidence. We still admire the self-sacrificing person more than the one who seeks power. We still secretly feel guilty for wanting more out of life. Nietzsche wanted to expose this hidden psychology. He said that behind every moral system, there's a motive, and it's not always noble. Sometimes morality isn't about truth or goodness. It's about control, about keeping certain people in power and others submissive. Let's take an example. Imagine a society where people are told that wealth is evil, that ambition is prideful, and that wanting success is selfish. Who benefits from this idea? Usually, it's those who already hold power. If the masses believe it's wrong to strive or challenge authority, then they'll remain content with less. The moral system protects the structure of control. Nietzsche saw this dynamic everywhere, in religion, in politics, even in philosophy. He called it herd morality, the idea that people prefer safety in numbers rather than individuality. The herd wants everyone to think the same, act the same, and feel the same guilt if they dare to step outside the line. And what keeps the herd together? Moral pressure, the fear of being judged as bad. To Nietzsche, the greatest tragedy was that humanity lost the courage to create its own values. Instead of asking, "What is good for life?" people asked, "What does my religion say is good?" Instead of exploring their potential, they obeyed rules written centuries ago. He described this as the death of God, not the literal death of a deity, but the collapse of an old system of meaning. When Nietzsche said, "God is dead," he didn't celebrate it. He warned that this would leave a moral vacuum. If morality was built on divine authority, and that authority no longer holds power, what comes next? He believed that most people wouldn't be able to handle this freedom. They would cling to moral systems that give them comfort, even if those systems keep them small. He challenged humanity to go beyond good and evil, not to become monsters or reject ethics altogether, but to create a morality rooted in strength, creativity, and self-overcoming. He imagined a new type of human, the Übermensch, or Overman, someone who isn't ruled by guilt, who doesn't follow herd values, but creates their own purpose. Let's be clear, Nietzsche wasn't telling people to be cruel. He wasn't saying that compassion or kindness are worthless. What he wanted was honesty. He wanted people to see morality for what it really is, a human invention, not a divine command. He wanted us to understand that values come from life itself, not from fear of punishment or hope of reward. When we look at history, we can see how morality has often been used to control. During the medieval period, the church told peasants that their suffering was part of God's plan. Revolting against your lord was a sin. Paying taxes to the church, even when you were starving, was a moral duty. That wasn't about faith. It was about maintaining a hierarchy. The moral system kept the powerful comfortable and the powerless obedient. Even today, similar patterns appear in secular forms. Governments, corporations, and ideologies all use moral language to shape behavior. They tell people what's responsible, what's selfish, what's patriotic. And often, those definitions serve the interests of those in charge. Nietzsche saw this clearly more than a century ago. He believed that true freedom begins when we stop taking moral systems for granted, when we start asking, who benefits from this idea of good and evil? And what part of human life does this morality suppress? Because if morality can be used as a tool of control, then questioning it becomes an act of liberation. Nietzsche also pointed out the emotional mechanism behind all this: guilt. Guilt, he said, is the priest's greatest invention. It turns human instincts inward. Instead of acting on your desires, you judge yourself for having them. You feel dirty for wanting power, for enjoying life, for being human. The more you feel guilty, the easier it is to control you. You no longer need chains. Your own conscience becomes your cage. This is why Nietzsche's writing feels so radical even today. He's not just criticizing religion, he's challenging the very foundation of moral thinking. He's asking, what if morality isn't about truth, but about survival? What if every moral system is just a reflection of someone else's will to power, their attempt to shape the world in their favor? Of course, Nietzsche knew that not everyone could face this reality. Most people need moral certainty. They need a sense of right and wrong to make sense of their lives. He didn't hate them for it, but he believed that if humanity wanted to grow, it had to outgrow this need. It had to create values that affirm life, not deny it. So, when Nietzsche attacked Christianity, he wasn't only attacking a religion. He was attacking a mindset that teaches people to kneel instead of stand, to wait for salvation instead of creating meaning here and now. He believed that life should be lived boldly, without apology, without guilt. Imagine if we took that seriously. If, instead of fearing judgment, we focused on becoming stronger, wiser, more creative. If, instead of worshiping suffering, we learned to embrace joy as a form of strength. Nietzsche's vision wasn't a world without morality. It was a world with human-made values, grounded in life itself. In the end, Nietzsche's conflict with Christianity wasn't about God. It was about human potential. Christianity said, "You are fallen. You need saving." Nietzsche replied, "You are capable. You need awakening." One offers comfort, the other demands courage. And that's what makes Nietzsche both dangerous and inspiring. He didn't give answers, he gave challenges. He didn't say what you must believe, he asked whether you have the strength to believe in yourself. His message is still unsettling because it puts responsibility back in our hands. There's no divine judge, no eternal reward, no moral safety net. Just us and the values we choose to create. That, for Nietzsche, was true freedom.